welcome to Life Podcast. Today we are joined by the beautiful Emma Oldham, who's coming today as a conservation biologist and environmental campaigner.
Yes.
So welcome to Life Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a while, hasn't it?
Yes. As parents and balancing jobs and everything else, it's hard to just get half an hour, isn't it?
I think you're one of the busiest people I know.
I probably agree.
You really are. You try and balance everything. But anyway, conservation biologist.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? Because I don't know.
Yeah, no,
and
sure.
Where did that start for you?
Yeah, so ever since I was born, I've been fascinated with wildlife. You know, I was always down in ditches catching sticklebacks, or in my garden pond getting the great crested newts out and frogs, and just was fascinated by it. And I had an auntie that was really passionate about animals, so I used to go and volunteer, and she used to work at like rescue kennels and stuff like that. And I just kind of was always fascinated as a child by like David Attenborough documentaries and just seeing the beauty of wildlife and the extreme conditions it thrives under. And I felt this almost compelling fire inside me as a child to protect it. And literally, even as a child, you know, before my dad would get the mower out in the garden, I'd be like, stop, I've got to do the frog sweep.
Yeah.
And I'd literally be there as a kid, like, you know, all through the grass, looking for these little baby frogs, getting them in the pond. There's always been an innate thing in there, you know, to protect nature. To protect. So I always knew that's what I wanted to do. Although I did have another passion. I absolutely love dancing. And so, like, 9-year-old me was like, I want to be a choreographer when I'm older. Yeah. So I actually did do a dance diploma, but it just didn't have that same passion and desire as, you know, wildlife. So, yeah, I got, I think at is it year 10, you go on work experience?
Yep.
And I got, my tick was like, animals, please. And I got a little job at a cattery, and it was gross, you know, the stuff cats chuck up and stuff. Yeah. But I loved it because I was with animals, and it really reaffirmed that was the path I should go on. So when I finished school, I did a diploma in animal management, and then basically
was that at college?
That was at college all the way in Luton. Completely left home, moved in with my ex-partner. You know, when you're 16 with his family, and went to college there, and then it was, you know, off to university, and I wanted to do conservation biology. So what a conservation biologist does is they try and help protect animals basically from going extinct.
A particular, just whatever's on the extinct.
Yeah,
list.
A conservationist will look after the landscape, habitats. They might bring in a reintroduction program to boost numbers. They might do a breeding program. It's basically looking at the issues that we've got facing wildlife and finding solutions to protect them, stop them going extinct, and recover their populations and help them, basically.
Any of them examples natural?
What
opposed to man-made sort of extinction?
We have, historically, of course, there's been local extinctions, natural extinctions. There's been, our climate has been changing ever since the Earth, was born.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Created,
born evolved, whatever path you believe in. And so, we've always had natural extinctions of wildlife, but they happen slowly over a huge amount of time. And what humans are doing is we're accelerating the rate of extinction to like 100 times faster than a natural level. And so because we're manipulating our environment, we're putting huge amounts of pressure on the planet and our resources. We actually use 1.6 of our Earth's resources a year. So we're almost borrowing half of our planet each year to fulfill our needs as a society.
Sorry, say that again.
So that means that long term, the way we are behaving is not sustainable. The planet will, everything will just fall apart. Our ecosystems will collapse, and we are in this sixth mass extinction.
I'm guessing pollution is quite high on that as a main sort of culprit.
So many reasons for animals going extinct that are human related is pollution in regards to polluting our waterways and our oceans, We get a lot of coral bleaching, which is where
I've
corals
heard of that,
completely go white, they die, they expel all of their bits that live, basically, which, all the wildlife around it, feed on, live in, lay their eggs in, and all of that. To then things like, intensive farming, taking over huge areas of land, pumping it with fertilizer, with fuel, with chemicals, which then, wipes out loads of pollinators, and then the bats and the birds that feast on those pollinators.
It all starts at that microscopic level, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Like, that's what I find absolutely incredible, is that everything in the world is so intrinsically linked, so important. And what we're doing as humans, you imagine an arch. We're chiseling away at these blocks, and eventually everything's just going to crumble. And we are starting to see that, people, especially in the global south, are already experiencing and feeling the impacts of climate change,
So as a conservation biologist, then, it's not just animals, is it? And it's not just the landscape, it's everything all in one.
Exactly, and, that includes people. When I worked at Rewild in Britain, which is the UK-only charity that's kind of focusing on rewilding 30% of Britain, we always said when nature thrives, we thrive.
Yeah.
So it's all of it. If you conserve a landscape and you do it properly, and the local communities are embedded in that decision making, they take management for their local areas, they understand the benefits of the wildlife being there, as opposed to removing it and illegally extracting trees, etc.
Yeah.
All of it's so linked. So that's it's as a conservation biologist, it's hugely challenging. The more and more we push through the 21st century, the more and more, devastation and destruction and greed and consumerism is just infiltrating everywhere. And so it's a massive emotional roller coaster.
I bet it is.
Because there are wins, community groups save green spaces, we can bring back species at the brink of extinction, we can recover populations, we can rewild and restore huge landscapes. But
So who do you work for then as a conservation biologist? Is it like a university, or is it Charities, or?
So conservation biologists can work anywhere and everywhere. Some conservation biologists will go off and do, PhDs and, do research projects. So they'll actually research why species are going extinct, or, look at the genetic diversity of animals, or how, certain chemicals are affecting bees and bee colonies, etc.
That's a big one, isn't it? Bees.
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing.
At the minute, I'm sure we'll do a podcast on that alone.
Yeah, there's so many different routes. You'll get people that will go off and do marine biology, and will be going down underwater and collecting, samples and monitoring the quality and health of our oceans and what, what's lying beneath. And then, I know a lot of conservation biologists that have actually gone off and they do totally different roles. So now, when I first graduated from university as a conservation biologist, I was out in the field a lot. I was helping, tag birds, track wildlife, remove invasive species. I had an amazing time on the Calf of Man, where I basically ID'd loads of seals that were giving birth.
Oh, wow.
And mapped which ones were coming back, how many babies they had, checking the conditions of the seal pups, reporting any that might have died. There was a lot of that. But, and I said back to being a kid, I always loved nature. Yeah. Well, I also loved stories. I was an avid reader and always daydreamed of writing my own stories. A bit like you with your life podcast, right? Yeah. You love stories, you love getting that out of people. I loved reading it, Back then, podcasts weren't really a thing, were they?
No.
And so I've always had some type of wildlife in one hand and a notepad in the other. And when I was at university, two of my lecturers said to me, "Oh, we've seen a journalism internship, and we really think you should go for it because you're really good at communicating conservation issues." Because a lot of conservationists will speak very scientific and make it quite inaccessible, quite jargon heavy, and people switch off.
Yeah, I do.
And then you get the opposite side, where you get really great writers or journalists, but they just do not understand the subject and the depth and the issues, and been out in the field and spoke to people and seen what's going on. He said, whereas you can bring the two together so well, you've got a really rare skill. And I thought, wow, that's really
Thank
lovely
you.
being told that, you know, from the lecturers. And it was an environmental journalism internship. And I got it in my third year of uni. I don't know how I juggled that with your dissertation and everything, but I absolutely loved it. I got to interview some real game changers, a guy called Bill McGibbon, who was one of the first kind of big campaigners to really go against the fossil fuel industry,
Right, okay.
especially coal, and to try and encourage people to really divest away and to keep coal in the ground. And a fascinating primate expert called Jane Goodall. I don't know if you've heard of her.
No.
But she basically devoted her whole entire life to conserving gorillas and understanding primate behaviour and what made them vulnerable, and she's been fascinating. And I loved it. And so then, you know, after being out as a field conservationist for a bit, I saw a job advertised at the Wildlife Trust's central office here in Newark. I thought, wow, I'm in Newark. I had no idea we had the Wildlife Trust headquarters here. So I applied for it, and luckily I got it. And then that was 12, 13 years ago. And then I've just worked my way up, right up to communications manager. And now I do communications and fundraising and storytelling. And I've worked for several magnificent wildlife charities in the UK, and do quite a bit of freelancing and a lot of consultation to community groups
to help them and
to help them exactly influence policy, decision making, to give them confidence, to give them guidance on how to run a campaign, how to save a green space.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so many roles conservation biologists can play, and I'm
crazy.
Very lucky that my two passions came together, and is to now kind of tell stories of inspiring action and things that do go right for conservation, to encourage more action and more positive. You know, it is a bit of a cycle, and I think, you know, I did a talk on this last Sunday in Nottingham, but we're in a bit of a rut where everybody's so quick to share the doom and gloom and the inaction, and to point out politicians that aren't doing this and aren't doing that. And all that does is it sparks what I call climate doomism. And we bury our head in the sand and we don't do anything about it. And whilst we have the privilege of doing that, people in the global south that have lost their homes due to flooding or drought, or there's no food left, or mudslides, or you name it, you've seen what's going on. They don't have the privilege to bury their head in the sands. They are living through this right now. And so for us to bury our head in the sands, we're almost siding with the massive corporates and the massive big polluters that are destroying everything, and not standing with everyday normal community, you know, citizens like us that are having these decisions taken out of our hands. And, you know, we are all stuck in this system. I unfortunately have to drive a car that runs on fossil fuels because I can't afford an electric car.
Yeah, I mean, what's your stance on the electric? What?
No, I honestly don't have a stance.
Because I
hear such mixed information.
I know, I do. I don't know where. Obviously, I'd love an electric car.
Yeah.
It just seems cleaner. There's no noise.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of crap that comes with it.
About how it's made.
My hands up there for ages then.
No, I completely agree. You know, we hear a lot of awful stories about the way people are trapped, who make the cars, how huge amounts of forest are, you know, wiped away to get the precious minerals,
and
to
it's
make
like
the batteries. I mean, my stance is just no car. If we should really be enhancing and incentives. I can't say that word. Incentivizing?
Using a word I don't know. Incentives?
Incentivizing. I can't say it. Encouraging.
Encouraging, yeah.
People to use public transport. I mean, did you hear what happened in Germany? So they have literally given everybody free transport, public transport, and it's just been phenomenal. Because those
British
that
government wouldn't give away money.
Those that have to commute are getting to work so much quicker because there's less cars on the road. People are saving loads of money because of the rise in fuel costs. The air quality is getting cleaner. People are getting healthier. It is absolutely possible. And so that's more my stance, is rather than arguing on should we have an electric car or diesel car or petrol car, it should be how can we make sure and challenge our local and national leaders to build a green infrastructure across the UK that encourages public transport and cycling and walking and making it safe and enjoyable to do so. And
do you think that would be an impossible task? Because I watch a lot of travel documentaries and stuff like that, and it seems to me that Britain is behind the times.
Oh God, yeah.
In every aspect. It's like you've mentioned that. That to me is an impossible task.
Yeah. We are also one of the most nature depleted countries in the whole world.
Yeah.
You know, we are right at the bottom.
That's so sad, isn't it?
It really is. And dare I get political, but I genuinely think this is what's happened of years and years and years of a Tory government.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't comment on that. I don't. I don't know. I've only been active really the past sort of. I say active, taking an interest in local politics, shall we say, since on board with. We'll get onto it later. Stop the Job, which was a successful mission of yours.
Of many people in work.
Yeah, but one that you've been involved with.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't really know about the past. I've always, politics. The word has bored me so much for so many years. It's just in my head a bunch of grumpy old men sat in a big house. That's all I knew of politics. But it goes a lot deeper than that. And
it does, and I'm still learning. You know, I never really was a political person until the last couple of years.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I think it's only since I've had children and I've been old enough to vote. I know I'm not that young now. But, you know, I never used to really vote and I was disengaged as well. And I think it's only working as a conservation biologist and working in charities, I see just how much hard work and hours and lobbying and petitioning and campaigning it takes for these national charities to get better protection for wildlife, you know, to try and stop all the raw sewage from being dumped into our sea. It's always at the head of all these bad decisions for people's health and the planet. It always stems down to a Tory majority government.
Yeah.
So I've really noticed that through my work, and it's made me very switched on and think
facts don't lie.
Yeah.
Do they? They don't lie. And it's like, how can people not believe that? If that's what the facts say, people, again, they bury their head.
I know.
They just can't be arsed.
But going back to your question, it can be done. You know, I saw an amazing tweet the other day. I'll have to share it to you. Of a guy that says, who says pedestrianising parts of London can't be done? And it was a video. He had a video of, on the left, it was all full of cars and traffic and people honking and a guy nearly coming off his bike. And then on the other side, it was just people walking around on the streets, no cars whatsoever, looking around, enjoying themselves, bloody crossing the roads on their phones, not having to worry about traffic. And he made a funny joke saying something like, oh my God, we've pedestrianised this part of London, and no, the sky isn't falling in on us. You know, It's like, it can be done. If you have the right people in power that are listening to what people want, and I think a lot of people do want, you know, they are sick of being at petrol stations, paying money for expensive fuel, knowing that they're contributing to the breakdown of our planet. Who wants that responsibility on their shoulders?
I watched the recent Graham Hancock on Joe Rogan podcast with Randall Carlson, and I think Graham Hancock says all world, or a theory of his, or it came out of his mouth anyway, all world leaders should have at least 6 psychedelic experiences in their life to ground them back to nature and the roots of their being.
I like that.
Yeah, I do. I've not experienced psychedelics myself, but obviously I research it. I mean, it's an interesting subject to me, just how the mind alters. And it's like, you know what? I think you've got a point there. But like you're saying at the start, how disconnected we've been from nature.
But just to add to that, just being experienced in that area of work before you make decisions on it. I mean, the people that are in the environmental cabinet, in the Tory party most of the time, have no qualifications in natural science, natural history, ecology, conservation biology, and yet they're there in charge of how all of that decision making and policy changes is running. It's like, I don't know any other job in the world where you could hold that much responsibility with no requirements of that topic. It is absolutely madness.
Yeah.
I just find that hilarious.
No, you won't last 2 seconds on a building site.
God, no.
Yeah, in a classroom.
But you can in Houses of Parliament.
Yeah, you said before, let's not get political. It's like we can't help it.
I know.
No, it is though, isn't it? Because obviously decisions that impact the environment are made by the government. Mm-hmm. Just so happens we've got a Tory government.
Yeah.
So it's not, it's not a political podcast. It's just that's the shit they're doing at the minute.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are getting fed up, aren't they? It's
a
lot more people seem to be talking about politics than
they do. But I thought that was my age. I thought, am I just merging into this old man? Old man with ears coming out my ears and just mumbling about politics. Bit of an Elf Garnet, I don't know.
I think...
Or do you think it is becoming more apparent?
I think this country is going through... We've had it very cushy, haven't we? I don't mean like individuals and their childhoods and things. I mean as a country, we've had it very cushy. Mm-hmm. We haven't had a war.
In comparison.
We haven't had a pandemic. And all of a sudden we are going through quiet, life-changing, scary things. And, the cost of living's rising. Everywhere we go, all our services and help's getting cut and cut and cut. Our environment's being depleted, which is, what a lot of people rely on to help their mental health and well-being. Yeah. I think a lot of people are just hitting... I feel like quite a lot of people in my life are either very depressed, who have never suffered from depression, suffered massively from eco-anxiety, are absolutely fed up, or absolutely overworked and burnt out because they're just trying to make amends meet. And whether it is an age thing, maybe. But I feel like that seems to be a theme.
It does.
On the school run,
it does.
In coffee shops, in the library, everyone's fed up.
It's one thing I notice. I always try and be happy. I always try and be happy. Do you know what I mean? And when I'm sat in traffic, I've got music on, or I'm laughing at a podcast, or I'm singing away. And I'm the only one.
Yeah.
When you look around, everyone's just caught in this rat race that has become life. Mm-hmm. And you haven't got time to reflect on the precious green space that you're losing. Mm-hmm. You haven't got time to reflect on what's happening on the other side of the world, because you're that trapped up in a 9 to 5. I wish it was a 9 to 5, because it's not anymore.
And
it's a 9 to 9, easy.
When you're not trapped, you're heavily distracted.
Yeah.
These and screens and laptops.
You're probably watching this on.
distract us from ever deep diving. I hear so many people say, my husband does it all the time, I'm sorry, I've got to sit on the sofa and watch pointless shit because I need to switch off.
Yeah.
I don't want to be thinking about this stuff. We are so distracted all of the time that even when we have energy to do something about it, we're too distracted to. Yeah. So, between the rat race and all the distractions, You
haven't got time to fight this, or even... It doesn't come to your... forefront of your mind, does it? It does for you, because this is your job. But...
And I do, as a result, like I was saying, I feel like a lot of people are unhappy. I feel like as a result of that, a lot of people are striving for change now, and realise that they're going to have to play a level of that themselves to get that change, whether it is campaigning to save trees or deciding to run as a local councillor. I do feel like individual action is becoming a much more normalised thing now. And, look at how many mass rallies happening all around the world. Mm-hmm. Look at, I was going to say Black Friday. Black Lives Matter. And how many people united over that. People are starting to challenge and break down systems that are failing people.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Yeah, I like the pushback. I'm 100% against the pushback. But it often feels like it comes to no avail.
Do you think?
Not all. Yeah, I do.
And I think the reason why you feel that way is mostly because the media like to latch on to all the failures, all of the bad side of protesting, all of the extreme side of protesting and campaigning, and they want you to feel powerless. They don't want you challenging the status quo, because if you challenge that and you feel you've got some type of power. Coca-Cola can't keep being the biggest plastic polluter in the world. Mm-hmm. BP can't keep squirreling away billions of pounds of profits while we all are struggling and scared of even switching our energy on this Christmas. So there's a reason you're feeling that way.
Yeah.
And I understand that, and I have felt that way. But, like I say, working in this field for 13 years, it is an emotional roller coaster. Yeah. And I have seen tremendous victories, policy victories, new, new wildlife and not new wildlife, new protected areas being created and restored. You know, new marine protected areas in our oceans, places being saved from commercial exploitation. That, you know, so I do believe that action and wins is possible.
Yeah, it just seems a small. Yeah, totally. You obviously you do win some, you do lose some, as the saying goes. But it's like, where are the tens of thousands of people?
Yeah,
this is what's needed. Yeah. It's like a 200 against Parliament. You're not going to do a thing.
But if you look historically, I think we're going in the right direction.
Yeah, it's starting to warm up, isn't it?
It is.
In every avenue.
And this is the thing, like, we know as a society we can do huge shifts in behaviour. You know, as a child, I remember sitting in Wimpy and there being cigarette smoke everywhere. Yeah. I remember being on a bus and hating it because of the cigarette smoke. Yeah. Now, I barely see anybody smoke anywhere. Yeah. Society, you know, when the government and when individuals normalise a change in behaviour, you see a massive shift. And we have done that with smoking. We have done that with the use of CFCs with the ozone layer. So once we started discovering that there was this big massive hole in the ozone layer, that was massively challenged and lobbied, and loads of massive cosmetic industries, etc., had to change the type of chemical in deodorants, aftershave, and all of that, and paint and all sorts of stuff. And now the hole in the ozone layer is closing up, and like we can do these. Look at what happened in the pandemic. You know,
what aspect?
Well, I mean, like not the whole world, but look what was achieved. Look how much everybody just slowed the hell down and was forced to stop, and we didn't carry on as normal at that time.
I didn't know if he was going to go into vaccines or masks or whatever.
All of it. All of a sudden, everybody was out wearing masks. Everybody was spraying stuff. Everybody was wearing gloves, touching petrol. You know, we as a whole nation, you know, global international population has shifted behaviours in the past. So why can we not do it for the protection of our climate and our future?
I think all those behaviours during COVID were manipulated by media.
Some, yeah.
And the government rules, obviously that's a manipulation, isn't it?
Yeah.
And a lot of that is forced behaviour. I watched Matt Hancock today because obviously he's in... What's he in? Yeah, I'm a Celebrity. And I saw a video of him just reminding, because everyone's like, I'm on board with him now, and then a lot of people are, oh, he's still an idiot, remember what he did in the past. And there's a video of him where he threatened, obviously the police were involved now for anyone not wearing a mask. And he was actually threatening with arrest. That's forced, but that's dictatorship, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yes, we can, and I wish the same measures were in place for the issues that are affecting the environment, if that makes sense. I think it can be done, but I don't think the government would do anything like that. This is the thing,
we need the right balance, don't we? We need the government to take a stronger level of responsibility for reaching climate objectives and goals of reducing fossil fuels significantly, becoming, you know, creating a green revolution in regards to greening our homes, you know, the public transport, ramping all of that. There's so many opportunities to still have a healthy, thriving economy, and nature and a healthier, cleaner atmosphere to breathe and all of that. We need more of that, you know, and actually reaching the UN's target of protecting 30% of all nature.
I was just going to say, who sets these goals? And
so complicated. Many different things are set by many different agreements and deals, and we need a lot more of that, and we need a lot more of normalising people actually caring about that and taking action. And you know, like in the past, the amount of people that used to call me a tree hugger, for example, oh, she's just a tree hugger, whereas now there's hundreds of people, as we've seen in Newark, that are prepared to stand up and fight for their green spaces because they know that the trees are cleaning the pollutions out of the air, are helping deal with flash flooding, are providing lovely memories. We need more people speaking up about the value of nature and the role it plays. Yeah. So I think it's the responsibility of both. It's not one or the other. Whereas at the minute, I feel like the government are just greenwashing endlessly, pushing on any type of responsibility onto you. Yeah. You get overwhelmed. Like you say, you're either really busy or you're totally distracted. Nothing happens. Yeah. And we have to break this.
Look, I mean, luckily, I'm pretty awake to it. what's going on.
It, yeah.
It's your job to be awake to it. But it's just, do you think it's an avenue that would have a better impact if it started locally and branched out? Or do you think it needs to come from the top down? This movement, this change and this shift that's needed?
I think we need any type of action anywhere and everywhere. I think the rate of how fast our planet is changing, we're in our 6th mass extinction, the amount, we've lost 60% of all the world's wildlife in the last 40 years.
60%?
Of all of the world's wildlife has gone in just 40 years. We should be fighting with every tooth and claw to protect any green space.
Is that since the 70s?
Yeah.
So
WWF do a Living Planet report. I don't know how often they do it, but the latest one released this year was horrific.
And what's that significant jump down to?
The things we were discussing at the start.
What's...
human-induced climate change, so the warming our planet, which is mostly created from the use of
Has it been that much change
fuels.
in 40 years? And advanced technologies and stuff to...
Oh, this is the thing. We're advancing technologies and going up in space and exploring new planets, but...
Yeah, I know we're backwards in the conservation side of things, 100%. But I'm just trying to figure what...
But there are solutions out there.
What's been the biggest shift? Like, is it more cars on the road? Is it on that sort of thing in the last 40 years?
It's everything. It's population growth and people,
60%.
humans. It's, mass dependence on fossil fuels and burning fossil fuels. It's people's consumerism habits, as I was saying earlier. So let's just say, typically, in 365 days a year, we should be using up one planet of resources, right? That would be a sustainable level. So does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
But what we're doing is we're using 1.6 of a 1.6 of a planet of resources every year. So that is an unsustainable level. So what it means is we're taking way too much from the planet.
That's 60%
that it can handle.
More than we,
So that's why we're seeing such a decline in wildlife, because we're removing too many fish from the sea that they can't...
Right, so it's not just we're doing everything, it's obviously the wildlife having an impact on it as well.
Yeah, it's
rather than fossil fuels, it's like the chopping down the trees and everything like that.
Exactly, we're removing habitats, we're across the world people are consuming, loads of animals are being killed for, medicine properties and all of that. Loads of animals are being trapped and kept as exotic pets and, but all of this, mass consumerism, mass fossil fuel dependence, weakening of environmental regulations, overconsumption, overpopulation, even the way we eat in our diets now have put huge pressure on the planet, because not only what a lot of people say as an argument is, oh God, all the vegans are responsible for chopping down the rainforest because they eat the soya that the rainforest is replaced with for the soya plantation. Yeah. A vegan can never consume anywhere near the amount of soya as the animals that are being fed the soya that you're going to eat. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So just go straight to it. Like, so all of this, basically, we have lost 60% of the world's wildlife in the last 40 years.
That's scary.
So to your answer, I think we should be doing absolutely everything.
I forgot what the question was.
We need to be having the government really take this seriously. And we need local campaign groups, local community groups that fight and protect valuable green spaces close to them. Because just growing up here in Newark over 12 years, not growing up, sorry, but I've been here for 12 years, my children growing up here, there are places here that my firstborn was in that my twins will never see.
Yeah.
We've lost so much here.
How big do you think the Green Party is as a UK, or how big is it in comparison to Tory, Labour?
You're probably asking the wrong person here for that. I have been a Green Party member in the past.
Yeah, you don't know the facts.
But I've not been close to the Green Party recently.
Because obviously that brings us on to a local issue, Stop the Chop.
Yes.
Anyone listening outside of Newark, obviously Emma is a bit of a celebrity in Newark, aren't you? You are really, aren't you?
No.
You are. You are. Everyone knows you. Everyone knows you that's into wildlife. Put it that way.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I was born 15 houses that way.
Yeah.
And I now live here. So we're from Newark, and obviously we're going to talk about a local issue, so forgive us if it's not apparent to you, but I hope you enjoy it all the same. Stop the Shop. So I think you're better
That's where I first met you, actually.
It was, and that's when I first had the thought, where is the Green Party? Based on that. So
I mean, there were Green Party members there.
Yes, but I wanted to see Green Party. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Because if that was a Tory event, I'm sure the Tories will slap their name everywhere.
What I loved about it, whilst the Green Party wasn't apparent, the community was abundant.
So what was it, first of all? What was Stop the Shop?
Yeah, so basically, I'm quite new to the Stop the Shop story. So about 3 years ago, a small group of people, which was mostly led by Green Party members and councillors, and they set up Protect Newark's Green Spaces. Mm-hmm. And they were dealing with things like, trying to help make sure the butter market
I don't know if you can remember off the top of your head, but you released some facts around this time of how deplenished? Is that word? Deplenished Newark Green Spaces are. So I was just going to say, why do we need to protect Newark Green Place? It's like we have less than a metre square compared to London.
It's mental. I can get it up on my phone if you want me to. I can't remember off the top of my head, but we definitely have less green space per person in Newark than in London, than the capital.
Than the capital city.
Yeah.
And that I remember that set alarm bells ringing for me.
And I also put in a Freedom of Information request to Newark and Sherwood District Council and said, how many acres of green space have we lost and has been lost to development, and how many trees have actually been removed without any replanting? And the council's reply was, we don't know. We don't keep track of it.
Wow.
If you want to know, you need to go through every single planning application and add it up. Where is the due diligence as a councillor that are responsible for all assets, including our green living assets? Where is the due diligence there in even monitoring how much green space they are stripping away from the people of Newark and Sherwood? So
wow.
It's quite frightening. This campaign really, basically there was a really great group of people called
that's why we need to protect Newark Green Spaces.
And they'd worked on really important stuff in the past, but the main thing that came to fruition was the fact that we were going to lose a beautiful pocket of green space next to our lovely library, which has got some gorgeous mature trees. Big old trees, as Adam always says from the Woodland Trust, who was a massive supporter in the campaign.
I'd like to speak to Adam.
Yeah,
I'd like to get him on because I was asking him some really good questions at Stop the Shop when I met him. Yeah, anyway,
he's fantastic. So there was many things to this. It wasn't just the fact that we were losing this amazing green space. It was the fact that it was being removed for a car park when at that time
no, it was being removed for 11 spaces.
There was no public consultation. The current car park was only at 60% capacity. There was no real business case for it. It was just all done underhandedly, very quietly during the pandemic. Then all of a sudden a vote happened and these trees were coming down. Yeah. And everyone kind of went, wait, what? Where was the consultation? When did this happen? And Protect Newark's Green Spaces have done a really good job of protesting and doing rallies throughout the town and holding events. When I found out about this, I was like, oh my God, there's a group of people in Newark that give a shit about the same things as I do. Yeah. I felt like I was on a sinking ship. On my estate, especially at the top of Coddington, on Beacon Hill, every single tree that lined the street that I live on is now gone. There's none left. And so many people on my estate love ripping up their grass and putting down astroturf. Whereas we were the opposite. We were removing gravel and planting wildflowers and things in the front and little trees and things and shrubs. I just felt like leaving Newark. I just thought, oh my God, every day I can hear chainsaws. Every day there are vans flying around full of chopped up trees and people moaning about blossom on pavements. And I just thought, this is not the town for me anymore. I need to go.
I'm feeling like that.
And it was only when that campaign, when shit hit the fan, I suddenly met all these amazing people that cared.
That's some superstars.
And my job in that whole thing was that, they was already doing an amazing job, but my job was to try and then use my skills to tell this story, to get the message out there and to tell all ages and to help run the community events, to get as many people there as possible to see how gorgeous these trees were, to see what a peaceful little park it was. And, I tried to bring in, because I remember when I saw one of the posters, it was very doom and gloom. It was like, come and protest, and it was all red and black and very scary. And I thought, if I was a mum and I saw that, I'd never want to go.
No.
So I said, can I have a go at rebranding all this? And so I made it fun and colourful and empowering and bring children and bring your dogs. And oh my God, that first event that I, helped market, over 200 people turned up, from toddlers to grandparents to dogs to babies in pushchairs. The diversity of people that was there was something that had never been seen in Newark before. And it just kept growing and growing. And I don't know how deep you want to go into this story, but it was a very long campaign, over several months. A lot of people suffered
I only caught
burnout.
The tail end of it when it was active, now it's go time.
And the night I met you was the very special night where we all got kicked off the land,
yes,
barricaded in, got threatened that if we didn't leave we'd get arrested. I unfortunately had to leave because I had 3 little children to pick up from school and nursery, but 5 brave souls remained, and one of those was Jo, who was in her 80s and had stayed from like 9 in the morning till 6 at night with no coat on, stood next to the police, I'll stay here as long as it takes. Absolute incredible lady. And eventually people did say, please, can you leave now, because we're worried about you, you're old, you're fragile, we don't want you to get poorly over this. Then it went down to the Fab Four, You say I'm a celebrity, I'm nothing compared to the Fab Four.
They're fantastic.
And they stayed all night under them trees. They did not leave because they knew that once they'd left,
they'd be in.
It was barricaded and the council could go in and do what they wanted. And, how I met you was on the other side of the barricades. When everyone did a massive vigil, candles lit everywhere, posters on the walls, people were coming, playing their guitars, passing hot water bottles over, dropping off supplies. It was almost like the perfect antidote to the pandemic of everybody being isolated and locked away and not being part of anything anymore. Then suddenly everyone just came together.
It was community spirit, like,
oh my God,
you've never seen sort of thing, because you don't get that anymore.
I cried most of the days because it was so emotional. Even the bakery opposite was coming over with free teas and coffees and said, someone's left £100 kitty because they can't believe what you're doing. Just come and grab a drink when you're cold. People came all the way on trains from Leicester to drop off food because they saw it on the news and thought...
it was all over, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was really, really,
and that's where storytelling is so important, because we told our story, we wrote press releases, we got in touch with the media and all of that.
Yeah.
Storytelling is just so important.
To rally up, I suppose, the support for the campaigns. Well, you say that's quite a big... But anyway, it was... How many trees was it?
It was 4 mature trees that were going to get chopped down. And whilst it doesn't sound like a lot, Newark, especially in the town centre, has lost an awful lot of mature trees. Yeah. So that little area served as a really important stepping stone for wildlife. Foxes were seen there, hedgehogs, deer, badgers. We knew that it was really important.
Yeah. What goes through these people's brains?
Money.
But how can people live with themselves on a conscious... Do you know what I mean? I can't put it into words. I don't know. I don't know how people can sleep at night knowing that they're just chopping down hundreds of years.
Creating destruction.
For 11 car parking spaces.
It's 11. Like they don't see it as a living thing.
And it wasn't 4 trees. It was the green grass around them. It was the whole flower beds. It was everything.
The whole reason why the library was built with glass windows the whole way round was to see and
the gardens.
Feel inspired in that amazing green space.
It's absolutely ludicrous. How was the victory won then in the end on that?
So in the end, there was so much community pressure on the council to do the right thing and to not go ahead with this deal, that the landowner who was buying the land to then lease to the Newark and Shrewsbury District Council to run it as a car park basically said, you can buy the land back off me at a significantly lower rate. And I think the council knew that if they didn't take that deal, they would have been...
So that was credit to the landowner.
Credit to the landowner. However, there was months of campaigning prior to that. Why not intervene back then? It had to get right to the 11th hour to the point where old grandparents were sleeping under trees. Yeah. It shouldn't have had to have got...
No, it shouldn't.
Like, the landowner is not the hero in this story.
No, I'm not trying to...
We are grateful that he offered that. But he got an incredibly good deal out of that and sold it back and made money anyway.
Right, okay.
And
I thought you meant he was selling it for a loss.
What the problem is what are the council even doing selling off our assets to people anyway?
Yeah.
But of course, we are so thankful to the developer for offering that reduced rate. But there were so many chances for the council and developer to work together, to have those conversations. Protect Newark's green spaces tried so many times to make that happen, and we just got brick wall. Didn't even get any acknowledgements, So it is a shame that it took such extreme devotion for it to happen. But yeah, and it's been amazing because as a result of that, it's inspired other new campaign groups in Newark. We've now got SWAN, Saving Wildlife and Nature, and they said, because they saw that that protecting your local spaces can happen, it gave them the drive to challenge.
Just exactly what I was saying at the start, where what's the point? It's like, well, no, here's an example. This is the point.
Yeah, and there was quite a lot of people that said, I'm here to save these trees because they saw in Sheffield, there was a massive thing a few years ago where shitloads of healthy trees were getting cut down, and loads of campaigners were. There's a film that's come out about it actually. And they saved a load of these trees, and some of those people were at that event, and they were like, yeah, well, if you saved your trees in Sheffield, we can save ours in Newark. And then we saved them, and now in Boulderton. Well, if you've saved your green space, why can't we keep our green space free from commercial exploitation?
So it's that said, we're starting local, and it's rippling out now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. All of it is all connected. It's so important. And all of that has to feed up to the politicians, right? It has to. They have to see.
You would have thought.
Well.
But then again, how many protests have happened in London, and thousands of people, and nothing's come of it.
We just need to get them out.
It's frustrating, isn't it? It's pure frustration. So what are you working on at the minute? What's taking your time up?
Yeah.
Campaign-wise.
Oh, campaign-wise.
Yeah. Let's stay on a rant.
Yeah, no. Well, can I tell you non-campaigny stuff first? Because these are quite exciting things. Yeah. So I feel really honoured that I've got a book publishing deal.
Yes, you have.
For a children's book. I've always I've said to you I love writing stories, and as a mum, it's always been a lifelong passion of mine to write a children's book. And I had this so basically this book is about marine rewilding. It's very fast paced. It's very Julia Donaldson-y. It rhymes. It's very fast. It's funny, and the hero in this book is a little girl named after my daughter Ari, and she uses everyday. She's not a superhero in the sense of made up powers. She uses her voice. She uses her talent. She uses her confidence, her passion, to challenge something that she feels is wrong in the world around her. Mm-hmm. She notices that all the marine life that her grandma has photos of and spoke about, and the fishermen's livelihoods and everything, it all collapsed. It wasn't there anymore, and she knew that was wrong. And so she started to challenge things and question things and campaign and lobby her MP. And it's kind of inspired by a true story that happened in Scotland, where a community group basically did this and got the world's first marine protected area declared in the coast of Arran.
How long ago was that?
In the last 10 years, I believe. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And now we have, nearly over 100 MPAs across all around Britain.
Wow.
And basically in this book, Harry gets this MPA, this marine protected area declared, and then, you know, it gets rewilded and all these amazing wildlife come back and this whale comes back. The book's called A Whale Who Disappeared. And the whole point is to empower young people that you have a voice, you have a skill, you have energy, you have a passion, you can challenge, you can change things. You don't need these superhero powers. So it's really exciting to have that published, because I really do want it to catalyse the next generation, you know? And I think it's important for children to have a mixture of books in their bookcase. Of course, we want silly books like The Dinosaur That Pooped to Bed.
Yeah.
You know, everyone...
But I think it's more important to give kids the right to challenge...
But to show that... You know... Exactly. You know,
whatever they don't agree with or they've got passion about.
This is why I always take my girls with me to peaceful protest. If I know it's a safe environment and, you know, everything's been done properly,
this is why my son's growing up to be a bit of a dickhead.
Why?
Because he always challenges everything.
But that's great.
I know it is, I know.
That's great. Yeah. And
fantastic.
That's obviously because you've given him a safe space to do that, you know?
Yeah. For now, he's still young enough.
You know, and he sees his mum going to protest and he sees his mum challenging things that are wrong. She's an amazing role model to that behaviour. So, credit.
Is your book finished now then?
So the book's all written. We've got an illustrator. It's in illustration mode at the moment. Okay. So it should be published next summer. So yeah, that's been really exciting. I did my first book reading at Newark Library as part of the Newark Festival, and I actually couldn't believe how well received it was. Really? There was a mum at the end that even cried and said that was incredible.
Oh, nice.
And children of all ages were really engaged. We did like a big marine craft community art piece at the end. And yeah, I'm really excited and have some really exciting plans with Green Hustle, who are Nottingham based, to do a tour around schools and create sea creatures from recycled plastic.
To tell the story. And
Yeah. So
nice.
I think that's going to keep me busy a lot next year, and I'm really excited for that. I just want to help raise the next generation of marine biologists, politicians, community campaigners, you name it. You know, give them a voice.
Fair play. Come back on when the books are out.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Let's do it as a story. You can storytell to the audience, can't you? No, come back on for the book launch. That'd be pretty cool. Then we can post a link out where to get it and
awesome.
Whatever else.
Yeah, thank you.
So what else is going on?
And then my job is just...
Tell me about busy.
So my job now, I work... I've been there since February, and I work as communications and fundraiser for an amazing charity called Connected Conservation Foundation. And we basically help unite really big corporates like Microsoft, NTT, Cisco, Airbus, with field conservationists. So, you know, our focus is Africa, to deploy technology and solution in helping, you know, eradicate poaching, stopping human-wildlife conflict, rewilding, you know, and using technology. You know, we were saying how technology feels so far behind. Yeah. There's actually some incredible technology solutions out in the field that are monitoring how much carbon is captured in grasslands, so that people can get paid for actually sequestering carbon and helping with that. You know, technology that can literally detect a person going on in front of a camera as opposed to an animal, and it pings an alarm to the control room, and the anti-patrol unit can get there straight away. Drones that have night vision. Honestly, I went out in South Africa in April and saw a lot of it deployed, and it's absolutely fascinating. The challenge is that it's not that we don't have these solutions, it's the fact that there's very little investment in upscaling and productising these solutions so that national parks can afford to buy them in and use them. So one of the roles I play, you know, where we are, is to try and help drive that, you know, to bring in funding, to bring
spread awareness of it and what's going on.
To donate a lot of this technology and equipment. So that's really nice, because it has been nice to dip my finger back into actual practical conservation again, because I love storytelling, but being behind a screen all the time, it's not good for you. It's not good for the waistline.
No.
Or your eyes.
No.
And there's nothing more amazing than being out in the field and seeing, you know, rhinos and...
How was it?
Incredible, I cried.
So what was your purpose of going out there?
A few purposes. One, to kind of bring back these stories, because it's very hard to understand the true challenges and solutions and what's happening when you're here in England and it's all in Africa. interviewing a lot of people, from the rangers to the people running the lodges to the anti-poaching unit to the field staff to everything. Just going out, learning about it all, absorbing it all, understanding their needs so that we could then go back and find solutions for them. So is it a drone they need? Is it cameras? Do they need new fencing? Do they need vehicle alarm detect? Understanding what the issues are and basically trying to come up with solutions. And then we help put grant bids together, basically, to get the money and the investment in to get all this equipment out to the field and to deploy it.
What issues did you see out there then?
Poaching. Rhino poaching is just... We are... If you think about it, all rhino species in the whole world, there's only 6,000 of them left, all of them together. So if you think like a secondary school has how many pupils?
1,500 maybe?
So a couple of secondary schools of rhinos spread out across the whole world, that's all we have left.
Wow.
It is really on its knees. Rhinos are being massively poached for their horns.
Yeah.
So that's basically how my charity was born, was to use technology to stop rhino poaching. But over the last 5 years, our strategy's massively grown to, help communities live, coexist with wildlife. And
so I presume rhinos are on the endangered sort of...
Oh, every single species is,
There's not one species that out. No. It's so sad. So sad. But that was the main purpose out there. And what sort of solutions did you come back with? What
it's all none of it's quick solutions,
Oh, right, it's not just get back and then send out.
No, we've had to do massive grant bids for places like Nat Geographic and, trying to bring in new investors and corporate partners.
Have you had some big corporate companies that get behind it?
Oh, yeah, definitely. But it is getting harder because, especially with the pandemic, a lot of people are very humanitarian focused right now and have took their eye off the environment for a bit.
Yeah.
But one thing we're particularly proud of is that we now work with Airbus Foundation. So Airbus basically create satellites up in space, massive planes. Their innovation is extraordinary. And we've managed to negotiate a partnership with them where they donate high resolution satellite imagery from space for free. And I mean, these are worth thousands of pounds per photo.
Yeah.
And we are basically using them out in the field to do things like detecting elephants from space, to see where they are in the reserve, how many there are.
Wow.
And have actually been able to detect rhino carcasses from space and can say exactly what time or where, that rhino was and where there's an unknown vehicle in the... it's absolutely incredible. So it helps with intelligent operations for tackling wildlife crime. It's helping... understand and map, where animals are travelling and things like that, to create things like wildlife corridors where they say, we can't have any development along here because this is where the elephants will come through and blah, blah, blah. So that's been really exciting.
Yeah, I bet.
And we're about to launch a big award next month called Satellites for Biodiversity, where we're rewarding 3 winners funding and access to one of the most advanced satellites in space to basically help with their conservation projects. So it's a really exciting space to be working in.
Yeah, massively.
So then there's the book, and then the being a mum, and then the campaigning.
That comes in, doesn't it?
So I know you asked me about the campaign.
Yeah, what campaigns are you working on at the minute?
Yeah, so at the minute I'm, as under Protect Newark's Green Spaces, we're really helping Saving Wildlife and Nature Swan. With trying to keep the boats off Balderton Lake at the minute. And again, this has been another really long, painful, strenuous campaign. However, we know we're doing the right thing because there's been hundreds of residents emailing us, reaching out to us, telling us, keep up the good work. We've just handed in a petition that had nearly 4,000 signatures saying they do not want this. So for anybody that's new to this, we've got the YMCA here, haven't we? And already people in Balderton lost a significant amount of green space that they used freely, daily, for dog walking, you name it. That's gone. Yeah. There's a massive YMCA activity village there, full of floodlights.
That's what I mean. Balderton is a village. Let's not forget that.
Yeah.
And now there's a YMCA village within a village.
Mm-hmm. And it is a village. I mean, built is a mammoth.
It's ridiculous. The light pollution, because it's just out there at the back. The light pollution is...
Yeah, I've seen it.
It's horrible. I like looking up into the stars and, a bit of astronomy. And they've fucked that up.
And all they have to do is put blinkers on these floodlights, and there have been so many complaints, but they won't do it.
No, but there's been nights where the pictures haven't been used.
And they're still
on. And the floodlights are still on.
Such a waste.
And that's coming from...
And when they're a charity, wasting energy and money like that, it just doesn't make sense.
No. And obviously, Newark Council have the image of a green tree as their crest and logo.
It's a joke.
And it's the biggest contradiction Why aren't the council on at them about the light pollution? It seems money talks, unfortunately.
But regardless of all that we just said, Boulderton as a village have been quite tolerant to that. They've accepted the YMCA. Yeah. There's a lot of noise pollution, light pollution. There's more traffic now. There's more litter. We're seeing more antisocial behaviour because everywhere's lit up at night, so teenagers feel like it's even safer to come and, And so, just to really make this clear, Boulderton are not against the YMCA. They've been very welcoming to that, considering they lost a significant amount of green space, and it really has infringed on a lot of people's homes and lives. But where the problem lies now is that the YMCA, Newark and Sherwood, want to get their hands on Boulderton Lake. Sorry. And they want to put kayaks on the lake. And I agree, kayaking is lovely. I love kayaking, especially sea kayaking, and it's a fantastic opportunity. Not against kayaking, but to kayak on the only last green space in Boulderton, which is quite small, and to kayak on the area of the lake where all the nesting and breeding birds are, including amazing species like kingfishers, heron, egrets that are quite a success conservation story in their own way. We lost all of our egrets and they're now starting to come back.
At Boulderton Lake.
So, and it's the fact that it's going to be up to 6 hours a day, 6 days a week. And we know that not only are we, is it going to impact the wildlife, and it will impact the wildlife. It's going to flush wildlife out. It's going to disturb them. And a lot of birds that live on this lake, they are water nest birds. They build their nests on the water out of seaweed and twigs and stuff like that. You cannot tell me that 16 kayakers going up and down and past that is not going to flood that nest, displace that bird, and that bird is going to leave. It's going to find somewhere else. Yeah. And what's so special about Boulderton Lake is it used to just be a landfill site. Mm-hmm. And nature has reclaimed it, and it's now this gorgeous lake that's inspired... Oh, is Bunnywood gone? Oh, there's a book down here that's inspired authors that people use on a daily basis.
Anyway, back with the book. Inspired from Boulderton Lake.
Yeah, that is literally Boulderton Lake. When you look at that is Boulderton Lake, and all of these stories are basically inspired by Boulderton Lake, the amazing wildlife that we have living here. And there's a really significant part in the book that just hits the nail on the head that your wife actually pointed out to me. Is she your wife? You married?
No.
Oh, whoops.
It's all right.
It says here, I hope that whoever reads these stories will realise how important areas like this are to the well-being of us all, and will try to do whatever they can to help preserve our rich diversity of flora and fauna. I, for one, don't want to see the day when the real Bunnywood, Boulderton Lake, exists only as a memory in the pages of this book. It's almost like he knew what was coming.
Yeah. In fact, I'll drop a link to this. You can get it on Amazon, I think. I think they're waiting on more orders, more books coming through now because they're sold out.
Yeah.
But it's beautifully, I don't say that very often, beautifully illustrated as well. Really nice.
Yeah,
and there's the map.
That is exactly our Boulderton Lake. So they want to put the kayaks all around here where the nesting birds breed. So it's a real big deal, and I think, you know, what Balderton Parish Council need to remember is that this lake has been an asset, a jewel to the people that live here for so long. I've heard so many people say they bought their houses because of that lake.
Yeah. But I've heard so many people say now they're selling their houses because of what's coming on.
Exactly.
And it's
which is sad because we could still win this. But yeah, exactly. And that lake has been so important for people's mental health. You know, so yes, we don't want to displace and lose the wildlife here, but also, you know, it's, oh my God, Newark is so noisy and busy and full of traffic. And Balderton Lake is one of the only places where you just get some peace and quiet.
Yeah. There's not many places in Newark.
So to have loads of activity and shouting and kayaks and everything on there, you know, I am a pro kayaker. I love kayaking, but there's a time and a place for it. And Balderton Lake is not it.
Another fear as well is, where's it going to stop?
Oh, as in people...
Again, it's not a dig at the YMCA, because I think the opportunities that they give the younger generation, I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm quite excited about the climbing wall, because I like rock climbing and stuff like that. So it's not a dig at the YMCA, but it's a case of, where's it going to stop?
Yeah.
Because are they going to want the whole lake in future?
Well, they said this is to begin with, haven't they?
And it's like, you know, no, it just doesn't. Not
and then there's been plans of, you know, toilets, cafes, boathouse. This can just become a mini centre parks, you know. And what Balderton Parish Council need to remember is this lake's been there since people were born.
Balderton Parish Council own the lake.
Yes.
Don't they?
And so to thrust a massive decision like that on the people of Balderton without any public consultation, and then to ignore this petition of 4,000 strong signatures.
I've lived here 38 years.
Wow. Don't look old enough.
Oh, thank you. I lived here 38 years, and I've never heard once until it was the application's in.
Yeah.
And that, again, to me, as a local resident, was like, what the is going on here? Who's authorising this? Yeah. And that got my back up a lot.
Yeah, it's a big decision thrusted on the community, and Swan are doing an amazing job of providing a safe platform for people to write to the council, to sign the petition, to come along to the protest. But as we saw with Newark and Sherwood District Council, brick wall, not talking to you, not acknowledging you. We handed in our petition 2 months ago. They still don't even have a date when they're going to discuss it and look at it and have us give our reason for the petition.
Do you think they're hanging on in case of an application gets pre-authorised before, you know, something like that? Could that be going on? Or is that for you not to say?
Who knows? No, who knows?
Because one thing I've learned over, you know, since Stop the Chop, and the backstory of that is everything is done underhandedly.
Ah, yeah.
And I don't trust anything, any propaganda I read.
And it's really sad because, like you say, YMCA has so much to offer Newark, and a lot of people were excited, and they're almost damaging it for themselves, because a lot of people will boycott YMCA. So many people have said to me, "Oh, do you want to meet up in YMCA and check out the new cafe?" And I've gone, "No, I don't want to." And I've told them why, and they've gone, "Oh my God, that's horrible. Well, I'm not going to go then." And this is going to get ugly, right? Like we Stop the Chop. You know, people will be prepared to get arrested.
Oh, 100%.
Will be prepared to barricade or whatever it takes to save that green space, because for all of the reasons we've discussed, we're in the 6th mass extinction. We've lost 60% of our wildlife in the last 40 years. Wildlife is crucial. You know, when nature thrives, we thrive. They have every right to fight for it.
But again, why aren't all our local councillors standing up and making a noise of saying, this is the last green space we've got of... go back to the Newark logo. It's a tree. They're for green space. No, they're not. They're not, unfortunately. They're for money.
Well, even if they don't care about it, it doesn't matter. They're supposed to represent their...
But why don't they care?
Why don't they care? That's the last thing. And their communities are handing in petitions, or emailing en masse, or... are turning up to these protests saying, we do not want this, and they're being ignored. That's the worst thing, I think. That's really undemocratic. And that's why I'm trying to help, you know, Balderton to get through this, to show you guys how to use your voice, how to peacefully protest, how to campaign. And, you know, it's, as I was saying, it's such a remarkable story. It used to be a landfill site. nature has massively recovered here. Even YMCA's 2 own ecological reports saw an increase in 157% of bird life.
So
it shows
just break that down.
Yeah.
So the YMCA paid for an ecology report on the wildlife
way years ago.
Yeah, it's 2016, was it?
When they were thinking about putting kayaks on the lake.
Was that 2016?
I think so. They consulted Knott's Wildlife Trust and they said, well, before you even think about doing any of this, you need to go away and do your surveys and see what an impact this is going to have on nature. So
let's say between 5 and 10 years ago. I think it's about 6 years ago.
I think it's 6
6 to 8 years, something like that. They did an ecology report.
And then they were going to go ahead with this. And, as campaigners, we said, well, you can't because your ecological survey is out of date. It had been over 5 years. And by law, any type of planning or change has to have a report within 5 years, a survey. Because, as we've seen, a lot can change in 5 years. And so then, because of the pressure on the campaign from the campaigners, YMCA committed to doing their second ecological survey, which they did this year. It identified a significant increase in mammal species. Now we've got otters there.
Did you say 157%?
And 157% increase in bird species on the lake.
157% increase in nature. They should be applauded for releasing this data.
Exactly. So it's like what? So Balderton Parish Council should be thinking, wow, this is actually, rather than doom and gloom, this is actually a story of nature recovery. And actually, we should be working with the community.
Yeah, let's go to the East Midlands and show what our village can be. That's what Balderton Parish should be doing.
Harness all this energy from the community. We know that people in Balderton have volunteered to do litter picks, to do reed planting, to enhance the wildflowers around the lake. They want to form a Friends of Balderton group. Let's use all this volunteering energy to create a really remarkable project. Yeah. And it will, and anybody that benefits from it will be for free. Any child, any grandparent can benefit for free. Whereas with the YMCA, it's going to be a select few people that can afford the £12 to £15 per kayak per half an hour. They say it's for disadvantaged children, but my children aren't disadvantaged, but I can't afford those prices at the minute. No. Really?
But we have local canoeing and kayaking clubs.
And that's the other argument, is that we already have purpose-built infrastructure that is much safer. Goodness knows what's lurking at the bottom of Balderton Lake. I mean,
I know a diver that used to dive in the lake.
Yeah.
And he's told me what's down there, and I wouldn't let my dog go in there.
Yeah, and a few weeks back, somebody found like an archived newspaper of divers that went down and did the survey, and was pulling out bloody long metal rods and all sorts of stuff, and said there was cables and silt at the bottom. There's been deaths in that lake. So why not go on a purpose-built? We've even spoken to some of these clubs, and they've gone, we'll welcome YMCA with open arms. We are struggling financially. Let's cooperate and do something together.
So let's help a local business, still get the activities we want for the local community, and leave Balderton with a green space. And it could probably offset some of the cost,
because if they're splitting it, it wouldn't have to be so expensive. But instead, YMCA and Balderton Parish Council are still so persistent on putting kayaks on that lake. And the really bad thing about it, that really upsets a lot of people here, is that they are only leasing the lake. That YMCA are only having to pay £1,000 a year. No, £1,000 a year for 10 years to have use of that. Well, residents here can argue they'd happily pay £2,000 a year to keep it safe and protected.
Oh, there's enough.
It's such a shoddy amount of money to be selling off such an incredible asset for £1,000. It should be. People should be. Well, they are. They're outraged.
Yeah, they are. It's causing a lot of tension in the local community. No matter, it's my local dog walking place. I can see it from the bedroom window, and it's on the tip of everybody's tongue when you're walking. Oh, have you heard about the YMCA? And it's like, it's a bit like, do you know the cross views in COVID? Yeah, vaccines and masks and stuff. There's contradicting views. You don't know whether to approach the subject or not with somebody. It's like that around there. And even the talk of it has put a dampener.
Yeah, it's just a horrible cloud lingering. And, it is affecting a lot of people's mental health. People have been signed off sick.
Massively.
People are thinking of selling their homes. People are genuinely worried. We've had old ladies coming up crying to us at events going, This is where I sit on a bench, and this is where I connect with my husband who passed away. This was our happy place. I don't want to be here if it's full of kayaks and sports.
If I had a decision, or I was the decision maker, and that one lady approached me, that would be enough. To say,
well, you should, but that's the whole point, is that they shouldn't be taking the views of a minority number. They should be listening and consulting with the community. That is their role as a councillor.
Yeah.
And they are just not doing that.
No.
And so they are failing Balderton, and it's really
apparent,
sad.
Isn't it, at the minute as well? But other than the late campaign, is anything else you on the horizon or you're working on?
To be honest, there's not really much time left.
No, I bet there's not.
Else. Just getting to do nice things like this. I keep getting invited to do lots of nice talks, and been doing a lot of talks on eco-anxiety and helping.
Yeah, what is that? I saw that the other day in Nottingham. What is eco-anxiety then?
Yeah, so eco-anxiety is a totally normal reaction, and it's almost like a sense of doom and gloom because of the planet crisis that we're in. You know, kind of worrying about your future, what the world's going to be like for your children and grandchildren, and feeling that sense of dread. You know, and eco-anxiety can be quite severe. It can stop you wanting to get out of bed in the morning. It can massively distract you from your work or your schoolwork or your daily activities, and it can make you very withdrawn. It shares a lot of symptoms as depression. But it isn't a mental health illness. It's almost like a consequence of being aware and fear, you know, seeing all this doom and gloom in the media. But what the issue is left untreated, it can significantly develop into depression and full-blown anxiety.
Really?
And so, you know, I've been doing a lot of looking and reasoning, you know, into why people feel it, who's making us feel that way, and what we can do about it.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of touched on this earlier, you know, the media are massively controlled by corporations. And, you know, you're being told a narrative that makes you feel like nothing is happening, that it's all doom and gloom. Because, like I was saying, they don't want you to know you've got power. Every time you spend your pound, you're voting for the type of world you want to be in. Every time you vote for your local or national representative, you're voting for the type of leader and the way of life that you want for your country. Yeah. And they want to take that power away from you. And so by flooding you with doom and gloom, your brain, it finds it most rewarding and quicker to just go to that switch off, that disengagement, that I can't do anything about this, just bury my head in the sand, and then the status quo never gets challenged. Everyone's been manipulated to feel this way. And so just by highlighting that and showing people what to look out for, and, you know, there's been a lot of articles as well where they use really scary headlines for clickbait. And you actually go into the article, the scientists are saying nothing that's even in the title. It's all clickbait. And so, but if you don't click on it, you just see all these scary big top line, you know, headers, and it is frightening. And so it's been really nice doing a lot of talks about that, and it's always like a workshop, and a lot of other people kind of show where their anxieties stem from, and
I've never heard of it
how
before.
they what they're doing to help cope with it. My anxiety hit off massively when I had children.
Did it for the future?
It really did. And I think that was one of the biggest drives to being less behind the screen and more out there campaigning. You know, I was always the one that didn't campaign. Yeah. You know, I'd be like, hats off to you, but that is not for me. I'm not a campaigner.
Every news programme and...
No.
You are. You speak, you're very articulate. You speak very well, hence the storytelling. And I think you're a great person to represent what's going on behind the scenes. Because you organise all that, don't you?
Yeah. You know, I do help organise quite a lot of protests, but the best thing about it is there's so many community groups in Newark. They're organising all their own things. This isn't one group of people. This is several groups of people all caring about, you know, Highfields. They don't want that land being developed on. Yeah. Lily and Stone, you know, which has got a gorgeous green space. They don't want that being a housing estate.
Is that where the tennis courts are?
Yeah. There's a lot of different community groups, you know. It isn't...
Look at Middlebeck.
Yeah.
That's a massive, massive, massive thing, that is. That's upset a lot of people. and continue to do so today.
And beautiful poppy fields gone.
That
forever.
was I'll put a photo over the top of this of the poppy fields. It was.
And that's what I was saying. I have pictures of me with Arietti, my firstborn, in a sling in them poppy fields.
I'll probably grab that and drop it.
And the twins will never see that.
I know, because I like photography. I used to go up most years and just get that golden light in the poppy field. But that's houses now, unfortunately.
Yeah,
which has raised obviously the population of Newark. We haven't even got an A&E unit.
And it's not just that; it's Fernwood.
Yeah.
That is one of the other problems.
I hate everyone that lives in Middlewick. No, I'm not saying
not
that. It's
only
just
are we chipping away at our green space, which makes us which is really important for us being a resilient town, but we aren't getting any extra infrastructure. There are no extra doctors. There are no extra dentists. There are no extra hospitals. I believe
the fire service have 14 officers cut. 5 officers.
Oh yeah, and we're getting cuts, exactly.
And 5 engines gone or something like that.
The only extra thing we've had is one school that's in Middlebeck.
That's to cater for Middlebeck.
Yeah. But it doesn't bring any... Yeah, so we are so overburdened in Newark, and that's one of the reasons why a lot of these green campaign groups as well are trying to stop more houses from being developed, because, as you know, it's so hard to get... I mean, my poor daughter had to wait 3 weeks to have a dentist appointment. That whole face swelled up with a massive abscess, and she missed nearly a week off school. She lost loads of weight because none of the dentists had space.
I think this is nationwide, though, isn't it? It's not.
Yeah, but it's not because of the growing population. But no, there's no expectation or request on the developers to also build in this important infrastructure that keeps people healthy and safe and catered for.
I've got eco-anxiety now, I think.
Oh no! Well, just don't click on the clickbait. Just ignore the doom and gloom. And a lot of the things I challenge people on at these workshops is to try and share positive news, because the more we normalise positive action, the more we will see action. And to stop sharing when things don't go well and the bad stuff. And even if you don't want to campaign and you're not a campaigner and you don't want to go out to the streets, still endorse and support those that do. Because it's a tough job campaigning. It's hard.
I've only seen the outskirts of what you do, but Jesus.
It is emotionally exhausting. It's not easy putting yourself out there and going against the status quo.
But it's not.
So support those people. Send them a text message. Yeah. Well done for today, mate. I'm really proud of you for using your voice. Using your rights.
I think a lot of people. You used the term earlier, tree hugger. And not only are you putting yourself out there, but you're putting yourself out there for slander. Not slander. You're putting yourself out there as a target, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're targeting yourself for these two. Oh, it's just a tree hugger. Oh, it's just a hippie.
This is why I was so. Not fixated, but this is why we're so determined to bring all walks of life to those protests. You can't call a baby like a toddler a tree hugger. You can't call a granddad who's like a civil engineer a tree hugger. You can't categorise all these people as just this one thing. They're all different walks of life across everybody in Newark, from cleaners to teachers to librarians to doctors. We had so many different professions.
I'm a tree hugger. Quite often I'll just, the energy off a tree. Do you know, if you're tuned in that certain situation,
the trees are amazing.
It's like you can feel the tree. And who did that documentary? That lady on Netflix.
Oh, what's this?
Oh no, it's a couple of years ago. Actress. She was an actress, did a documentary on trees. But anyway, looking at like the central nerve system and how the energies and how trees feel pain and
it's amazing.
How they communicate to each other.
I really recommend reading the book Secret Life of Trees.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Just how, I never saw trees as the mothers and the daughter trees.
Yeah,
I just
exactly.
saw trees as trees.
Yeah.
And how they actually live in little families and how the mums support the baby trees to grow up. And then when the mum's trees start to die, the offspring then kick in and support mum tree to keep living. And trees are just... I used to be a forest schools practitioner, actually.
A forest schools practitioner? Yeah. What's that?
Taking people out in forests and frolicking around, having fun. No, engaging people and lots of life skills like learning how to light fires, tool use,
It could have been The Hidden Life of Trees.
Yeah, it was. It's probably based on the book. Really recommend the book.
Judi Dench, My Passion for Trees.
I never saw this.
Really?
Really? Oh,
how they feel, how they communicate, and how they fight off evading sort of species. Yeah, it's really, really good. But yeah, you watch that and you really like, these things are alive. I'm no more alive than that tree.
Yeah.
And once you get that understanding of that tree stood through generations of my family, and who am I to? Almost you need to be proud to be a tree hugger. Proud you've got that connection with nature.
Yeah, that's a really nice way of putting it. I like that.
You should though, shouldn't you?
Yeah. It's nothing to be embarrassed about.
But I think a lot of people refrain from getting involved in stuff like this.
We are nature.
Whether you like it or not.
We are all nature.
Yeah.
We think we're not because we build these boxes and houses and stare in front of screens, and we are nature.
I think that's what Graham Hancock was going on about when he was saying every politician or every world leader should have psychedelic experiences to ground you're part of this, whatever this is.
I remember an amazing interview between David Attenborough and Barack Obama.
All right.
And Barack Obama asked David Attenborough, so what sparked your passion for nature? Something like that. And David Attenborough turned it around on Barack Obama and said, no, the question is, when did you lose your connection with nature? Everyone is born with that. You know, I mean, yeah, okay, you can argue that there are kids that don't like getting messy and dirty, but you tell me a child that doesn't love splashing in puddles, collecting leaves, conkers, holding wiggly worms, finding the moon the most magical thing, they have this natural awe and connectivity to nature. You know, it's so incredible to see, and it gets stomped out of you. You know, you get distracted. You think that artificial things are more important, and yeah, I never forget that when he challenged Barack Obama on that.
That's a nice quote, that is. And I think, that's why I go wild camping.
I love that, yeah. Yeah, your kids get some great times with you.
No, they don't. I go on my own.
Oh, but you take them camping. Oh, but not wild camping.
I just go with my bag and my tent. I just go up to the Peak District for the night. Yeah, I just walk and find somewhere and pick you up. I just walk somewhere, Kinderscare or wherever, and just pick you up for the night. And I do it to get away. I do it when my head's feeling a bit. I'm a big advocate for well-being and listen to yourself. Be selfish sometimes. I sometimes feel a bit guilty, but to be the best me, I need to be fully recharged. And working with public every day, dealing with these issues, seeing all the shit online we spoke about, it does mentally drain me. And my escape, or one of my escapes, is clear off on my own. And it's, although I'm not scared of being out there on my own, it's a very tough first 3 to 4 hours when you've picked your tent up. Now what? Do you know what I mean? You're literally on your own. You've got no phone, no signal.
Sounds like bliss to me.
It is, but people think they spend time on their own.
Yeah.
You take the sensory stuff out of it, you're on your own.
Yeah.
And it can be quite a scary place on your own with your own thoughts, with nobody to relay them to. But after that time passes, I tune into my environment. And then at that point, I am at the elements of nature. It's a humbling experience because you realise how insignificant you actually are.
Yeah.
You are nothing. Yeah. If that rock wants to fall, you're dead. If the wind comes in, a storm comes in, potentially dead. you have no bearing on what Mother Nature wants to do to you. And I think that connection, it does help ground you to the nature around you in a local level. And I think that's why the people need these experiences out in nature.
100%.
Get yourself out there.
Even if it is just but that's the thing. Boulderton Lake serves that purpose for people here, especially people that can't, that are older and can't drive up to the Peak District and do wild camping for the night. But them sitting and seeing the geese or the flash of a blue kingfisher or the sun setting on that lake. I mean, it's just beautiful. The toadstools, the orchids around there. It's just full of just beauty.
Yeah.
That is a lot of people's safe spot, like you've just said. It does that for them.
And like you said, it's the last remaining green space in Boulderton.
Yeah, the only one. Leave it alone.
Just leave it alone, man.
I know.
I'd love to know the proper incentive behind it, because I'm not falling for the propaganda of it's for underprivileged children. It's not.
I think they just want money from it. It's
what, £1,000 a year?
No, that's Balderton Parish Council.
But they have the final say, don't they?
That's ridiculous. I know it.
They have it's their lake.
Hidden agenda.
There's got to be, and I'd love to know what.
Yeah.
And if I found out, I'd expose it to the world, I think.
Maybe one day we'll know.
Maybe one day.
How long do your podcasts usually last?
It's from 45 minutes up to 2 hours, 3 hours.
Okay, so we're all right then.
Yeah, I don't know. We could split this one into 2 parts, maybe. A bit more content out of it.
You're the podcast expert.
I'm not. I'll just do this on a whim. It's a laptop and a camera. As you can see, I'm sat in my living room. It's a relaxed setting. It's been quite chilled, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's nice. You forget that's there, don't you?
You do, yeah. And it's nice, like I said before, this is another thing that gets lost. The art of conversation. And it's nice when I've not looked anywhere apart from directly into your eyes tonight.
Poor thing.
And no, but do you know what I mean? And you don't get this.
Yeah.
Because 9 times out of 10 you're talking to someone, you're like, it's work or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think
kids coming in and out, or TV's on and you get distracted by news. Or,
exactly. And there's no noise. It's just pure conversation.
Yeah.
And it's nice. It's not an interview. It's just hopefully a chilled out chat on someone's sofa.
I recommend more people to come on the live podcast.
Well, you said you've got a few.
Yes. I'm going to have a think. I mean, I know loads of people.
Yeah.
But I need to
a few people
that can get to you. And yeah, definitely. Talk to Adam.
Yeah, I'd like to get Adam on. I think I mentioned it at Stop the Shop. But yeah, I'd like to learn a bit more about trees.
Yeah, and it might be good as well, people that have been green candidates and stuff like that, if you want to find out more about that, because that's where I can't answer your questions. Keep them on. And,
yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Just one thing about the lake. I cut you off, sorry, about species. We've got bats as well, haven't we?
Yes.
Which they're quite protected.
Quite a few species of bats around the lake.
That's quite it's got everything.
Like I said, Balderton Parish Council should be using this as a real great example of nature recovery, of community engagement, enhancement, giving everybody free access to a pristine, gorgeous landscape, rather than coning it off and people have to pay and go on that lake to have that intimate experience while everybody else has to deal with the impact of that. How
long, for safety reasons, have boats been banned on that lake?
Oh yeah, you can't even put a model boat.
You're not allowed model boats for wildlife issues, I believe that is.
I don't.
So you can't take an RC boat on there. You're not allowed to use a dinghy, a canoe, any form of
No, and there
watercraft.
Are signs everywhere all around the lake telling you that you can't do this. It's
but
not.
As soon as a bit of money comes into it, that law don't pass anymore, does it?
Yeah, personally, in this day and age, with everything we've discussed, there should be no weakening, deregulation of any laws, bylaws, any of it.
No.
So it's really sad that they're just trying to go down that route.
Anything
and it's great to see a community rising up.
It is. I think they've got quite a bit of support behind them, the Swans.
A lot.
The Swan group.
Of support. And they are just, I just want to emphasise, they're just everyday people. You know, when you get pigeonholed as a campaigner, you almost get this veil over you where you're like, you're not a human being.
Yeah.
And you are. They're mums, they're grandparents, they're your neighbours. They're just everyday people that, like you, have grown up around the lake, probably use that every day, know every nook and cranny, every bit of wildlife that's there. And they just genuinely really do care. And
I know
just
that
have
lake
good
like the
intentions.
back of my hand.
Yeah, I bet you do.
It's great. I learned to fish there. I learned to ride the bike there.
Now your children do, you know.
Exactly the same sort of path. It's just a nice personal thing to me, and obviously backed up by the wildlife that will be impacted and everything like that. Again, it's like, what can you do? But we know what we can do.
And do you think kayaks on the lake would dampen your experience and time around that lake and the reasons why you go there?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
100%. Is it that sort of? It's not that. Oh, you just don't like change. You need to progress. It's not that at all. We haven't got like we used to see all the way where the poppy field is over at Middlebeck. We used to see all the way over to Horton. It's an uninterrupted, and then the wind turbines went up. That was the start. It used to see all the way out to Horton Church, and the sun used to set behind it.
Wow.
And it was like, do you know that place?
Now it's just a concrete jungle.
Well, it's just a building site. It's just a big building site. So it's just that uninterrupted view. You know, you're not going to see a boat on the lake. You don't want to see a boat on the lake. And it's, I don't know, it's just a weird one for me. I've got a very mixed emotions coming from all angles about it. Whether it's a wildlife, it's the green space, it's further development, it's somebody taking over where they're going to stop, and it's personal reasons. It's a lot of, I struggle to formate the sentence to put it into why I don't want kayaks on the lake. It's not just simple, straight one for me.
And you're not alone. As we said, nearly 4,000 people signed this petition. You know, there's every single time Swan have ran a community event or a protest, there's been at least 50 to 200 different people each time, different faces, different people behind them.
But a lot of them, there was like, if you're doing some chats around the lake, is like, are you aware of the YMCA? No. They still don't know. And where's this been out in publication then? If residents that walk around there daily haven't heard about it until the campaigners were actively on foot around the lake.
Oh yeah, I genuinely think 99% of anybody that knows about this, it came through the hard work of the campaigners, when it should be the role of Balderton Parish Council and YMCA leading on a public consultation. Take the A46 bypass, for example. I have seen that. Whether I agree with it or not, that's a whole different thing for another time. You know, the consultation process for that has been brilliant. They've been on the market stall, they've been various places, they've been in key supermarkets, they've got online, they've got an email address, and they have said every question that gets emailed has to get a reply. You know, so whether, you know, I'm not agreeing with that development at all, but that consultation process, like I said, has been completely removed from this. And so to thrust such a big decision on the people of Balderton, that's why you feel this way. And
yeah, I mean, even like, so campaigner approaches somebody around the lake, we're speaking about YMCA or whatever the excuse me, the jargon is. Even if that person is for the kayaks, why in their head aren't they thinking, why the fuck am I just finding out about it now?
Well, yeah.
I don't get how this just. But again, it's that busyness of life. People they don't care unless it's affecting waking up and going to sleep.
And you know, I have met a few people that are for kayaks on the lake, but then when I've really pressed them and gone, do you think you would actually use them? They'd go, probably not actually. So it's like a notion of it being nice to have, but would they actually use it? No. And so it's just too much at risk for a lot of maybes. And
yeah, it's one of those. But it's been fantastic. Unless there's anything else you want to.
No, I think my brain's slowly closing down now.
I can see. I can see.
I'm going to start yawning loads in a minute.
But thank you very much for joining me.
It's been amazing.
It's took a while, hasn't it?
Lovely to come and have a chat.
Hopefully it's been an alright Friday night for you.
Yeah, good. And hopefully we'll get some listeners and people might connect with this, and they might be fighting for green space or might be wondering what they can do. Or
exactly. And if anything, I've learned a bit about what a conservation biologist is. And you're obviously experienced in the field, so I know whether you're the right person to ask enough questions that I have in the future.
Go for it.
Well, yeah, thank you very much.
No?
And I hope.
I feel like I can shake your hand.
You can shake my hand if you want. Thank you, Emma.